Hey everyone, it's Lauren and welcome back to Take Action Tuesday. Today we are going to be talking all about vocabulary selection for our earliest communicators. What vocabulary do they need and how can we support them? If you are ready to go, let's dive in. Okay, so vocabulary selection is a really important component of AAC support. We are selecting what the individual will and will not be able to say. And I really want that to sink in for just a moment because it's a really big deal. We are ultimately the gatekeepers to language that these kids have access to. So with that being said, we need to be incredibly thoughtful about how we make these selections, and that is what today is all about. I will start by saying that all kids should have access to a keyboard, and we should begin showing and teaching those skills early on because ultimately the ability to spell gives you complete autonomy in what you want to say. Today we're going to talk more about specific buttons with vocabulary on them. But we're also going to be talking specifically about early communicators, and often they're young in age, but not necessarily. We're specifically referring to the kids that have less than 50 words, whether that be 50 words on their AAC device or 50 words verbally. We're talking about what we call early symbolic communicators. And that is like that single word stage for kids. And it happens typically before the age of 2, really between that 12 months, 18 months range, but also up to the 2-year range. And why 50 words, you ask? Because this mark is typically in analytical language development when we start to see a combination of vocabulary. So typically, once you have 50 vocabulary words, you can start to mix and match them and use them in a variety of ways. So those first words are really important. So just in case you are new to the world of AAC, I'm going to define 2 terms for you, core and fringe vocabulary. Core vocabulary is said to make up about 80% of what we communicate. It contains words that can be used in different contexts. So think of words like verbs and prepositions and adjectives. So things like go, stop, no, help, what. Fringe vocabulary makes up about 20% of what we communicate. And these words are often very specific. So thinking nouns, apple, car, bus, Miss Lauren. So today I want to share with you some findings from a research study that was published in 2020 by Laubscher and Light out of Penn State. Quick shout out to my alma mater. So this was a narrative study that summarized and analyzed a variety of core word lists and their development, and then applied them to these early symbolic communicators that use AAC. So the studies that were included had created a core word list. They had used kids at a variety of different ages, which we'll talk about in a minute, and made recommendations based off of these results. So here are some of the things that I found really surprising when reading this article. First, kids that participated in the studies to develop the core word list were ages 2 and up. This is relevant because we're talking about those early symbolic communicators that are really at that single word stage. So really anybody in that 2 and up was likely combining words at that point. So the vocabulary looks a little different between the 2. Number 2, there are several lists out there. There were multiple studies in this article, or in this study, and they didn't all have the same list of core words. They didn't all match up perfectly, which tells me that core words are dependent based on the people and based on the setting. And then number 3, each study that did present a list of core words also made note that their list was not a non-exhaustive list, and they cautioned against generalizing it to all populations. They said this is a list created from these kids, this is what we learned from it. You can't necessarily use it for everyone. Number 4, when this study specifically analyzed the list together, only 3 out of the 24 core words that they found in common and ranked were actually noted to be acquired before the age of 18 months. And the 18-month range is when we hit that early symbolic communicators. That's the age they gave us in this study. So that's when you start to add extra words in. So only really 3 of those words were used before that multi-word phrases. And then the last point I thought was really interesting is that one of the studies showed very distinct differences in the core words that were used at home, the core words that were used at school, and then the core words that were used in both places. Okay, so thanks for reviewing that research article with me. So what does this all mean for you? It really just means that we need to make sure we're providing robust communication systems and vocabulary opportunities to our early symbolic communicators. We can't just take one list and operate on one list, because that one list might not specifically apply to your communicator, and it takes some clinical judgment and some evaluation in our regular setting to figure out what words might be perfect for that communicator. So I want you to step back and picture this for a minute. You're talking with a 15-month-old that has that typical analytical language trajectory, and they say mama, and then you here, mama's holding you, yeah, mama more, mama will give you more. So you provide context to that one word. They took that one word that they have, and then you provided all these other vocabulary terms to support it. And that is how we learn language. That's how we learn how the words all mesh together and make phrases. And the same should apply for AAC. So we need to be able to provide that robust vocabulary that allows the individual to pick a word, and then it gives us the opportunity to talk with AAC and expand on that idea. So an example of this might be we programmed in your kid's favorite movie, and they go to press Elemental because that's the popular one in my house right now. And we can say, yeah, watch Elemental. Elemental is awesome. Like, we're providing all this extra context around that, and then that AAC user gets to see that language embedded. So the lesson today here is that we really just need core and fringe. We need to provide both. We can't always focus on one. There may be some situations, if you go back to all of my other videos, there are no black and whites in this field, so maybe this won't perfectly pertain to your child. But we need the opportunity to grow that robust first set of words so that we can begin mixing and matching and sharing more. I have a free handout for you. It is linked below if you are interested. And I also wanted to take a really quick minute to tell you about a course I have regarding AAC and early intervention. I partnered with Laura Brown, who is at Early and Bright SLP and provides a lot of early intervention courses and resources. And we brought you a course dedicated solely to AAC in early intervention. It covers the definitions, evaluation, implementation, parent coaching, and so much more. You can find the link below in the notes if you are interested in learning more about this population. Thank you so much for joining along this week, and we will see you next week for more.